everyone. Welcome back to Mountain Minds Monday. Before we get our main event started, I want to do something really important, which is thank our sponsors. So our gold sponsor tonight is Holland & Hart. They have offices throughout the West, including Reno and Carson City, and they practice many types of law, including intellectual property. And our silver sponsor tonight is Mobo Law. And they have offices in Truckee, Reno, Sacramento, and Incline Village. And they represent clients in business law, construction law, estate planning, family law, intellectual property, real estate law, and bankruptcy. And then, as you can see, we have a growing list of community partners that we can now barely squeeze onto the slide. But we are so thankful to have so much support in our community here. And if you would like to become a sponsor, the magic link is here. If you would like to do email, it's just sponsorship@TahoeSiliconMountain.com. And of course, I'm here too, or any one of the board members here tonight. We also have an individual sponsor program, and I can actually know a lot of you in the room are already participating in that. But what that does, it gets you entrance to all 12 of the Mountain Mind Monday events. You get some pizza and salad, and then you get a coupon that can be redeemed for a beer, wine, or 2 sodas. And we have a special check-in, so you never have to wait in line to check in. And you can do that all for $150. That's for the whole year. If you come to every event, it comes to $12.50 an event. So it's very reasonable, and it supports our community here. And on to our main event. So tonight, building thriving mountain town entrepreneurial ecosystems. And we are so lucky to actually have 2 speakers tonight, Colleen Dalton and Pam Hobday, in actually the opposite order. So I'll start by introducing Pam, since she's going to speak first. So Pamela Hobday is president of Pamela Hurt Associates. With over 40 years of experience in management consulting, she has worked with Fortune 500 and 400 companies, nonprofit organizations, city and county government, high-tech law firms, and higher education. She has directed extensive strategic and organizational redesign and was the director of strategic planning redesign for New York City following 9/11. Pam was also Truckee Citizen of the Year, and I understand why. And so Colleen Dalton will be speaking second, and she is Truckee's brand communications director for both Truckee Tomorrow, which is a chamber initiative, and the Truckee Tourism Business Improvement District, or TBID, as I think we all call it. And Colleen is a 20-year veteran in adventure travel, ski resort, and mountain town business development, with executive positions at Mammoth Mountain, North Star, California, and Sugar Bowl. With an EMBA, digital marketing and brand development have been Colleen's passion since parking her first domain in 1995. So that's Colleen, and I'm going to hand it over right now to Pam. Come on up, and we'll get you started.
Oh, you.
So here's your clicker.
Thank you.
That's for you, and I'm going to scoot out of the way.
And do I need one of those? No, I can't.
Nope.
Can everybody hear me? It's so great to be here tonight. How's everybody doing? How many of you have started a business in Truckee 5 years ago onward? 5 years ago to 10 to 20, how many of you? Longward, I'm going backwards. So 5 years up to 50 or 60, raise your hand, or more. Okay, let's give them a big round of applause. This is fantastic. How many of you are entrepreneurs who moved here to start a business in the last year? Awesome. Give them a big round of applause. And how many of you started a business 12 months ago through 5 years? Awesome. And what about scaling a business? How many of you purchased a business or are working with a business and that business is going to scale in the next 5 years, do you think? Grow. So, yes, I would say, I was going to say, yes, Matt, raise that hand. So Colleen and I have so much fun working together, and we were so lucky to attend the Mountain Venture Summit, February 27th through March 1st. And this is your Truckee Tahoe contingents who went. And what a blast we had. And so tonight, I want to share with you some of our ahas. And I want to begin with just telling you there were 41 mountain communities, 150 attendees for 3 days. And those were everyone from council members to local government, to lots of entrepreneurs, which made it really fun, environmental organizations. And one night, we were lucky enough to have Colleen invited to serve on a panel, and Mammoth rolled out the red carpets. It was at Mammoth. I can't tell you how fantastic it was. So all 150 of us were invited to a large area at the base of their ski resort. And then they invited the public, and 150 people came, public members from Mammoth. And Colleen was part of this amazing panel, which I hope she'll tell you a little bit more about. But we learned a lot. And I want to start by telling you, you know how it feels when we talk with each other and it just feels normal and acceptable? And we could really start a conversation with most anyone in Truckee. That's why I'm here. I've been here 22 years. This collaborative spirit, welcoming spirit. It's our base camp for a big life. And so all of a sudden, there were 150 of us from all over mountain communities. Whether you were talking to people from Copper or Telluride or wherever, they were having many of the same issues that we're having here in Truckee. The Mountain Venture Summit vision is bold. And I attend a lot of workshops, do a lot of workshops. I attended 9 workshops in 3 days and gave all of them a 9 or 10. It was exceptional learning experience and collaborative thinking, strategic thinking. But look at their vision. We are focused on building sustainable entrepreneurship ecosystems in mountain towns. So you're not with any city people, you're with these mountain communities, which is very unique. Obviously, they're talking about the world of work is changing with people being virtual, and that there's an international reach for all of us right on our coffee table, which we know. But why shouldn't we be moving away from snow-dominated industries and really shifting by attracting startups and smart, interesting people? And that's something we've been doing at the Chamber of Commerce with an initiative, and so to hear this theme and vision was thrilling to Colleen and me. If you can start a business from anywhere, why not start at Steps from the Slopes, right? How many of you had the greatest skier this year? And just that powder, oh my God, it was to die for, wasn't it? So the summit had 3 tracks: sustainable recreation, infrastructure and community, and innovation and investment. And you didn't have to stay on a track, you could move in and out. But I was really focused on the innovation and investment part, and that's what I want to tell you more about tonight. What I would say, key benchmark partners for Truckee are doing that we might want to emulate. So innovation and investment talks about most mountain communities are dependent on snowfall and tourism to sustain economic vitality. How do we create the 3rd leg of that stool and galvanize communities around supporting innovative businesses to relocate, to stay, and to grow? So 3 of the workshops I attended were put on by Mark Nagel, who is from Telluride, and they have had quite an experience the last 3 years in experimenting with how do they really bring as many entrepreneurs as possible to Telluride, help them, and then encourage them to stay. And so there were a lot of lessons learned that I want to share with you, because we're headed down similar paths here in Truckee. So Mark did a really interesting snapshot at the differences between accelerators and incubators. And his definition is, of course, that accelerators are incubators on steroids. And his proverb was, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So Telluride started 3 years ago, and I'll give you a little bit more history, with really focusing on accelerators. Later stage companies, usually ending up with a capital offering in exchange for equity convertible notes. Usually they're themed, whether it's biotech, retail, lots more invested in the relationships in accelerators. Investors are commonly looking for funds targeting 3 times plus the returns. Accelerators get caught in the funding cycle of needing another round of finance. That's usually pretty typical. And every round of funding can mean, for the startup or the accelerator company, giving up 15 to 20% of your business. So Telluride started with establishing 4 boot camps, 6 weeks long. And they really recruited accelerator companies. So imagine that, 4 boot camps, 6 weeks long, with just accelerator companies. Telluride also has a large bevy of angel investors or entrepreneurs who want to help, like many of you here who are doing that. So the lesson learned from Telluride is that their accelerator program didn't work, mainly because people didn't stay, the financing wasn't there, that was real, and the length of time in converting the business, the accelerator business, to what would work in Telluride was a big fat 0. So Telluride lost a lot of money, and they decided to regroup. So what they did is they moved to 2-week boot camps focusing on developing an incubator model. So incubators, let's talk about what are incubators. They're companies at a very early stage of development where, you know, you wake up in the middle of the night, I know you all have, and say, I have a great idea. I really am going to do this. I know it. I'm going to make a difference. It's a step above co-working, and Telluride builds on their co-working space. That's really, I'm going to come back to that. Participants usually pay $1,500 to $2,000 to participate for a 2-week, very compressed boot camp. And they built this whole, let's say, incubator boot camp based on their startup weekend. So I was anxious for Ellen to hear this. And developed intensive 2-week boot camps as it related to those companies that were really interested in forming. And let me show you the rest. Because housing is such a big issue at every single mountain town that was there, Telluride had a fabulous idea to marry these companies and individuals who wanted to be there for the 2-week boot camp with property management firms. And so whether it was greatly reduced rates, or there were 5 homes that were provided that were 4 or 5 bedroom homes from entrepreneurs for 2 weeks, really interesting idea. They found this model was much quicker for investors, kept interest, and actually got a higher level of investment from investors. They also found that female entrepreneurship went up by 50%, which I particularly found really interesting. It was really cool. And it was easier for angel investors to become involved, and their funding dollars is from another startup that's called the Greater Colorado Venture Fund. And one of the I would say, organizers of this wonderful summit is Mark Nagel, and he is one of the 2 founders of the Greater Colorado Venture Fund. So we ask here in Truckee, as we are trying to establish our own entrepreneurial ecosystem, how do we get money, honey? How do we do that? Because that's really what we need. Well, I want to tell you about this Greater Colorado Venture Fund. Their mission is they are a venture capital fund investing in early stage startups headquartered across the state of Colorado, outside of the Front Range. They're working to inspire innovation in places formerly overlooked by venture funds, mostly rural. Now, here's the caveat. In order to be considered for investment by the Greater Colorado Venture Fund, companies all must meet the following criteria. And they established this criteria so they would not go into the same steep dive that they did with with the accelerator model. So headquarters or significant operations must be located in rural Colorado. 2 full-time employees must be in rural Colorado. And the organization, the company, has to be committed to being located in rural Colorado for at least 5 years. So think about that. You know, for all the startups in the room, the commitment of 5 years, money, the interest rates are amazing. Okay, 1.5 to 2.5% interest, don't have to pay anything back for 5 years. It is really, right? I was salivating. Really, I mean, it's really for these 4 startups. They are seeking first institutional investment or growth capital funding and serving customers well beyond the company's locality, or they're raising funds to scale to customers beyond the company's locality. Here's where they are after 2 years. So their really great focus on a Telluride incubator is working. And now they are focused on recruiting 5 companies per year that will grow not more than 30 million and no more than 30 employees. So solving their problem of not being just focused on snow and looking at unique opportunities where from startup to then their co-work space now has been turned into the incubator. I was talking to Jan about this, who, you know, I think you all know where the lift is, and he loves this idea. So it's very, very interesting. Truckee Tomorrow is an initiative of the Chamber of Commerce, and we are really proud of it. And there are several folks, Dave and Matt and Ellen and Rachel, who are intimately involved, and you're all welcome. Last year, we decided that as a chamber, we really didn't know what our customers really think or what their needs are. So think about how you find that out. You do a survey or something. So we decided, let's try a grassroots effort. We had no idea what we would find. We hosted over 30 meetings, and guess what? We have a little over 700 members of our Chamber of Commerce right here in Truckee. Over 600 participated in these meetings. 600 people. It was a yowzy. It was like, oh my God, Colleen, what have we created? And it was thrilling. And what we found out, other than housing, the second largest issue in Truckee was recruitment and retention of employees. So we formed 3 project teams, of which we have business owners and leaders being involved in 3 project teams to help solve that recruitment and retention issue. And this team is just a rock star team. So Truckee tomorrow, developing Truckee as an entrepreneurial ecosystem. And look at this, compass. So what we really want to do is to build a diverse, rising tide economy while maintaining and growing a vibrant middle class. That's our vision. Now, what was fascinating at the Mountain Venture Summit is there were 2 workshops on diversity, but not one of these 41 mountain towns had a vision that spelled out maintaining and growing a vibrant middle class. And they love that we have this. Okay? So if you look at this ecosystem, right up here in the corner was the first deliverable that this project team wanted to deliver, a business owner survey. We've done that. The survey's done, thanks Colleen and crew. And our entrepreneurial ecosystem project team saw the first half last week. Our next meeting is this Thursday, 4 to 5:30 at the chamber office. Everyone's welcome to come see the second half. But more than this is a visual of where we want to go. Now, why I was so fascinated with this Colorado Venture Fund is that, I don't think it will show, but can you see the community investment model over here to the right? Well, we need money. We need money. And Portland's doing a really interesting thing with a community bank. So right now they have over $120 million that they loan, much similarly to the Colorado Venture Fund, only it's not just focused on entrepreneurs, but it is focused on business. So we really want to look at this, and the reason I wanted to share what Telluride's doing is they're really a cut above everybody else that was there. And the success was only because of an initial failure. And we were just talking tonight. Tell me your name again. Sandy and I were just talking. I remember when I first started my business, and I had a lot of failures. And so what I say to startups is celebrate them. It's only when there are hiccups in the road can you go, and can it really move to the next level. So we're well down the road of this entrepreneurial ecosystem. Stay tuned. We'll keep you up to speed. And I wanted to share with you an exercise. So it's a fast-paced exercise, but I think you'll really enjoy it, and it's called milestone mapping. How many of you have ever done it? Okay, this is something that you can do with your company, no matter whether you work with a company, you work for a company, you're an entrepreneur startup, or you just hate strategic planning. So in my management consulting company, I love this, but it was presented with a few different twists at Mountain Summit Ventures. So will you pass out, everybody has a piece of paper with a star on it, and pass those out if you would. I think Jerry, just to this table, every table has them. And then will you leave the sticky notes in the center of the table, and everybody take a pen if you would. The only thing I ask is I need these pens back for a workshop tomorrow. Otherwise I'll be in deep trouble. Yes, okay. So the twist, I really love this exercise. It's a very fast-paced way to really focus on goal setting. Does everyone have your goalpost paper with your star? So, and people at home who are watching, get a piece of paper, draw your goalposts, put a little star right out there, and let me walk you through this. So we can do it tonight together, parts of it, but then you can write down more specifically how you really can implement this. So whether I work with my Fortune 500 companies, or I work with a startup, or I work with a nonprofit or government, this works. And it's very easy to do. So you begin with saying, and I think I wrote it on your paper, but the star is December 2019. So I want you to write on the star what your goal is, what you want to achieve with your business. What's the biggest overarching goal you want to achieve by December 2019? Write that on the star. So that could mean grow to a $500,000 company. It could mean just get funding. I don't care where I get it, I just want funding. It doesn't have to be tied to money at all. Maybe you're scaling your people. Maybe you guys over here have a dream of what you want to do. That's where that is. If you can dream it, you can do it. Okay, once you have this is what I really, and for all the railroad folks, this would be a great exercise for you. So you're saying where you want to be by the end of December 2019, and then I want you to draw 3 hashtags on your goalposts. 3 hashtags. Now here's really important. To achieve this goal, what are the milestones you have to hit? Don't worry about timing between now and December. What are the major milestones? 3 milestones to get to this goal. Now, in the old world of strategic planning, especially in the 80s, 90s, we would turn these guys into strategies with a goal. That's kind of gone by the wayside. So milestones are movable. You have to come back and look at them often. You come back and revisit this whole process every quarter. So the idea of doing strategic planning for 3 to 5 years, or like my Japanese clients who have a 100-year strategic plan, that has gone by the wayside. So the next part is really a spin that I got from Mark at Mountain Venture Summit, and I love it. The next one is just a retrospective. So you have for this year. Now I want you to think back on the past year, just the past year. And I want you to put as many colored Post-it notes that you would like, 3 or 4 or 5, you may have more. And I want you to list your key moments, defining moments over the last year for your company. What were your key moments? And write those on those Post-it notes that you have on your table. So a flashback, and we're going to look at key moments. Now I want you to use a different color sticky note and put on top of the key moments how those moments made you feel. How did these moments make you feel? So I have a sticky note with a key moment and then another color right below it saying how I felt. Do you need another color? Yellows. Could you pass yellows? They need some yellows. Great. Share different colors. And then, using another different color, so it could be the first, the moment color. Now it's, how did these key moments make you feel? Next, going back, so you're going to have one sticky note, the moments, how it made you feel, and now, what did you learn from that moment? Like, I never want to repeat it again. Or I want to repeat it all the time. Now, as you've been writing these down, and thank you guys for doing this exercise, and you have your key moments, what you learned, how did you feel? What's your aha? What were some of your ahas?
Had a vision of...
Excellent. What else?
One day at a time.
One day at a time. Awesome.
That nobody's doing it.
That nobody's doing it. And how did that make you feel?
Excellent.
Yeah. Good. And what did you learn?
I've got lots to do.
Good. Okay, but that no one was doing it, that was a big aha moment, wasn't it? Okay. Based on these moments, I want you to look at what you put as your milestones and do they change anything? So do you want to feel more of what you felt here? Or do you want to get out of the day-by-day mentality, hour by hour? I'm talking to the startup over here. And based on these milestones and where you want to be by 2019, and these wonderful moments or things you learned about yourself or others, and let me stop for just a minute. Let's say you have 4 employees, or you have 3 employees, or you have 20 employees, whatever group's doing this together, you have them do this whole thing. So each person sharing out what their milestone, what their moment was, how they felt, and what they learned. It's very insightful, I promise you. So I have a wonderful opportunity to work with a gangbuster engineering team and executives at Google. And because I have a 42-page non-disclosure, I can't talk a lot about it, but I can tell you this. Every time I do this exercise, we totally rechart our course. Because lots of times, part of the team's quiet, and not everyone knows where this could take them. So the last part, once you have all employees doing this or your partners together, it's really important you listen and hear and do lots of active listening with people. Then you say, let's really write our SMART goals for 2019, 2020. Here are our milestones. This is probably the right goal, But you want to now add 3 or 4 others, not more than 5 goals to run any size company, especially any high-tech company. Okay, 5 really specific focus, especially for startups. So you take then more Post-its and you really set your goals for 19 and 20. And what's on AHA is some of these moments you don't want to recreate. So you want to be sure the goals are absolutely focused. Remember, all goals should be SMART goals. So specific, measurable, aggressive, realistic, and time-phased. So I hope you found this helpful. Did you like it? Good. Be sure and start using it. I used to use it on the airplane all the time for my company. It was just really easy to do. But it reminded me of how simple goal setting can be once you add a retrospective moment. So here's to Colleen. Let's give Colleen a big round of applause.
Well, that was exciting. Is this on? Can you hear me? Yes. Cannot hear me? Closer. Okay. Shift gears. So at Mountain Ventures Summit, we realized and we announced that we were the first mountain town to establish a quality of life survey system unique to mountain towns, and also the first socioeconomic metrics baseline for a mountain town. I'm going to skip through some of these because we're running a little bit late, but Truckee, California, beautiful place to live. Welcome. Welcome all newcomers. How and why did we create a series of quality of life surveys? How and why did Truckee research and define 91 metrics? Well, we were established in 1866, and we have quite a bit of a reputation. We weren't quite set up for economic success. We were a young town. We're only incorporated in the 90s. We had no business improvement district. We no economic development organization, which is still true. And Lake Tahoe really dominated. Truckee who? We needed a brand. And we also needed a catalyst, a champion for change in the environment. And I must say that was Pam at the time. Still is. Wonder Woman. So who's heard of public-private partnerships or know what those are? So that's local government funds matched with private money to make something happen, and they're getting more and more common. So we created Truckee Tomorrow, and this was phase 1, a public-private partnership. And these were all the entities involved. We conducted 4 community workshops. Who remembers those? Summer of 2015. Yeah. Never start your town's strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities with your weaknesses. So it was a hot August night in council chambers, and we had poster paper up. And little did we know it was a bit of a powder keg of angst about locals living in Truckee and some of our weaknesses, the traffic, the congestion, the visitors. So it was very interesting exercise. We developed a brand. We survived. Our brand promise is, Truckee promises an authentic mountain town experience with easy access to inspiring natural beauty, world-class recreation, and a vibrant community. We created a website to mirror the brand promise, and there's quite a bit on the site for how to create a big life, how to live, work, and play in Truckee. So phase 1 of that Truckee Tomorrow, done. We achieved buy-in for the new brand, but we had learned some major unexpected consequences. And then this happened. Who knows Mike Kazmierski, Economic Development Association of Western Nevada CEO? He's a bit of a bad, you know what I'm saying. He came riding into town and spoke at Good Morning Truckee and said 50,000 new jobs were coming into Reno, and watch out. And I think the room was dead silent. So we knew that was going to impact Truckee, and we needed to wake up to that. It was the big gorilla in the room. And Reno was the biggest little city, and they were right in our backyard. They were also starting to position themselves as more like Silicon Valley versus the old Reno. Yet we wanted to preserve our middle class, grow and preserve our middle class. So this is Jess. I think she's here. And she just got married to a husband. He's a Truckee Renaissance man. He had 3 jobs at the time. But truly, were they a flight risk? Were we going to lose our up-and-coming middle class because of this booming economy down in Reno? This is a real concern of ours. We had just developed a cultural district, one of only 14 in the state, and we worked hard for that. That helps us position Truckee beyond snow and snowflakes. We're really concerned about rentals and how's the rental market and how's housing. Lots of folks, Airbnb is ruining my neighborhood, said the local. South Shore, North Shore, Truckee. In the meantime, Truckee, we're winning all of these awards. We're Best Adventure Town, Coolest Under the Radar, endless awards, but they were all anecdotal. Social crowd raising, judges, bloggers, it wasn't really measured. It was all these accolades and awards were from out there, but they weren't really measurable. Then we just more and more press is happening since we built the brand. Why Bay Area residents are flocking to Truckee, Vogue, Men's Journal, best ski towns to visit if half your friends can't ski. Very interesting topic. We used to call them civvies, short for civilians in the ski industry, civvies. Got to have something for them to do. In the meantime, you guys, California as a state is really going through a crisis with tourism. Lots of cities and towns are feeling overwhelmed and overburdened and overtaxed with visitors that are being irresponsible. Just on the news the other night was a number of selfie deaths that happen when folks are doing dangerous things on famous bridges like this. And in Big Sur on New Year's Eve, they actually had a protest on the bridge. They're just sort of done. You've all probably heard of the South Shore incident as well with the traffic. So what's there to do about it? Venice is actually starting to charge an entrance fee to the city. So that's interesting. But tourism is the backbone of our economy. So we started our Tourism Business Improvement District in 2016 for a dedicated fund so we could control the message and the brand. We had no control or fund before that. This is the TBID committee team. It's quite a broad section of hoteliers. Then we went to Mountain Ventures 2 years ago, which was the first conference, Mountain Ventures. This is the posse there. And we decided we needed to create a public-private partnership phase 2. But we knew we can't protect what we don't measure. So our core values came up in the whole brand exercise. Healthy lifestyle, who values that in this town? Maybe one of the big reasons why we're all here. Natural beauty, huge. So we learned that the unexpected consequences these were our core values, but we can't protect what we don't measure. So Truckee Tomorrow phase 2 started. And we started off with asking the community, tell us how we measure your quality of life. So community buy-in for 2 months, we did a lot of outreach. We let them know our approach. We talked to a lot of stakeholders, police, fire district, foundations. We researched a consultant software. We chose FlashVote to measure, and we built a community of 1,600 opt-ins. We launched the project and completed it in 4 months for year 1 for our first Quality of Life series. Does anyone recognize this? Did anyone take the surveys last year, maybe? Or they're coming around again, so we're measuring them every year. We started with nothing and we grew to 1,600 opt-ins. So much like next door, you opt in to voting or providing polling information. Our goals were to listen and learn and achieve statistically relevant feedback. The results from the surveys drove the indicators we needed to measure. So 4 surveys, 2,565 surveys completed, phenomenal, and they actually are completed in 48 hours, and you get the results are all public within 48 hours. And it was a treasure chest of information. I'll go through this rather quick, but you can filter by locals, you can filter by renters versus homeowners, residency, age, and even gender. Some of the interesting takeaways, what's important when choosing where to live, housing, safety, security, especially in this day and age. In this day and age, Truckee, a small mountain town, feels pretty good to me. That's incredible. 63% recreation, and then attractiveness of the community. That means lack of blight. That means beautiful roundabouts. That means streetscaping that the town of Truckee invests in. So attractiveness of the community, public art, those types of things. What's important when choosing, this is continued, same question. Friends and family. Friends and family are really important. So who, when you moved here, knew somebody already? Had a friend, family, visited here first, probably, right? Weather, climate is a huge reason to move here, and hospital access, 35%, which skews a little higher when we sort by primary versus secondary homeowner. A world-class healthcare system in town is a little bit more important when you're a little bit older. And that's just an example of that. So word clouds galore, thousands of comments, literally. That's where the real gold nuggets are, and some of the heartbreaking comments, and also some of the joyful comments. All of this public record can be exportable, filtered and sorted. How you work, so of the 4 surveys, this was really fascinating. 1 in 3 Truckee locals actually work in Truckee. 18% work is virtual, and 46% agreed this is a good town to work virtually. How easy or difficult would it be to find a similar or better job? Pretty hard, pretty hard. Which statements do you agree with? 65% they're happy with their work, 58% their work is meaningful in Truckee, and 62% their flexibility is important. Who thinks flexibility is important in this, to have this lifestyle, right? 18% agree there's lots of entry-level jobs, but only 3% agreed lots of professional jobs. So again, we're baselining. So this quality of life surveys is baselining. So we will remeasure year after year. Well, we'll save for questions at the end. Would you recommend working in Truckee to a friend or colleague? 21% would recommend working in Truckee. So we have some gaps to fill and some things to understand about that, and that's what Truckee Tomorrow is all about. This is the Net Promoter Score. I won't get into that. Who's familiar with NPS, the ultimate question? Okay, so that signals intent. When you recommend something, it's a little bit more skin in the game than you were satisfied with something. So it's just a baseline number. But we do want to ask this ultimate question. Would you recommend your town to live, work, play, or visit? And we asked this at Mountain Ventures Summit. This is a little bit of a graphic of promoters are usually your super stoked evangelists. They love the town. They are going to go out and tell all their friends to move to your town. Your 7s and 8s are like, yeah, it's good. I recommend it. Yep. Your 6 and belows are like, not so much. So your score is your 9s and 10s minus your 6 and belows. That's just the super quick version. But this is a really important metric to understand. So it was tested in Steamboat Springs, and we actually measured these questions in Truckee. So to live, the score is 14.8, or 75% were 8, 9s, and 10s. And then do business was 46%, and there's some reasons for that as far as skewing. And then play was quite high. So these are fundamental questions, like how do we get to the root of these questions? So you follow up this question with, what would it take to raise your score? What would it take to raise your score? And when you get all that comments and feedbacks, all of that can be aggregated into themes and then passed on to the right entities. So this is just some word cloud of what it would take to raise your score. Traffic, roads, and infrastructure was up there. This is the URL to find more, all the details and information. So at Mountain Venture Summit, we posed the question to the 41 other mountain towns, what if we did a brand strength ranking amongst mountain towns? Because it's all good to have accelerators and the pillars of an entrepreneurial ecosystem, but a little bit higher level, what's the quality of life in your town? And would locals recommend living, working, or playing in your town? So we posed the question, would you all be willing to participate in a town ranking system across the US? And most of them raised their hands. So we're working forward on that, and we'll see where we all rank come next year. That's just for that exercise. And this is a video. We'll see how we're doing with time. We'll move on to that. So the quality of life surveys then defined the metrics we needed to find out there. So metrics, where can you find those types of things? Census, the challenge with these sort of bigger surveys is they're not really at a grassroots micro level, and you're not controlling the question or the timing. All of this is available, of course, but it's really not at a grassroots town level. So how do you find data? It's either online, it's automated, it's manual, it's crowdsourced, so surveys. Our 2 goals for that were to find the metrics, research, and then centralize that data, develop a dynamic data set, and ensure consistent methodology and community adoption. Going into this project, we realized that everyone's citing median income and everyone's citing cost of living, and the numbers are all over the place between all of our districts and foundations and organizations. So we really wanted a baseline and define the methodology and then have town council approve it. So what's the qualitative is Truckee's water tastes great. Quantitative is, well, how do you measure that? Did it ever have any reports of lead or copper? So getting the qualitative feedback and then the quantitative feedback was really important for us. And Jeff Flex is a town manager. We asked him, is anyone else doing these community indicator baselines? And he gave us quite a list to research, which we did. But a community indicators list unique to mountain towns does not exist, did not exist until today. We set a high bar for quality. We wanted a record date. How was it measured? Other comparisons. We had quite a Google sheet going on. We researched and talked to a lot of stakeholders. So, and all this is available online. I'm gonna go real quick now. 91, we learned that, guess what? Truckee's violent crime index is 1/3 of the US. We're a darn safe city. Our number of fire calls per capita are 74% below national average, but our EMS calls, emergency medical service calls, are increasing significantly. Can anyone guess why? Remember that 50,000 jobs down in Reno and the population boom down there? Where do you think they're going to go on weekends to get to the lake when it's hot? Day visitation. Day visitation is going to start climbing if it has already. Our air quality is 50% cleaner and healthier than the national average. Isn't that great? If we didn't measure this, 2-3 years from now, you might notice, wow, it just seems a little bit more hazy. But if we didn't measure this, we wouldn't really know the truth. So now we have a baseline. What was really cool was that 64% said in the surveys a sense of community was a top reason to live in Truckee. Who thinks that's true? Community? It's unique here. And we talked about that. So housing metrics. So these are really critical metrics that have been thrown around a lot. And what is the truth? The truth. So we compared public records with Property Radar, a local application in Truckee. Who's familiar with Property Radar? They aggregate public records on land, on real property, and we looked at those records, worked with town to analyze and learn that since 2017, only 10.25% of all housing inventory in Truckee is active on the short-term rental market. So numbers have been thrown around like it's 15%, it's 25%, everyone's on Airbnb. The fact is, actively reporting revenue to town of Truckee for their nightly rental is running only around 10.25% quarterly comparison. Of that, only around 100 are locals on the short-term rental market, so 0.748%. As of now, we'll remeasure that. But it was really interesting. This sort of refuted a lot of rumors going around out there. Active is very different than registered. This is a map. The red is your non-primary. It's a fantastic software. I can't recommend it enough. We just did Acknowledged Bytes on Property Radar. So all of that data is here for you to download, slice and dice as you like. Check out the methodology and how we organize the data. Business Speaks. Who's heard of Business Speaks? So Truckee Tomorrow, that's how Truckee Tomorrow is galvanizing a community by bringing together business leaders in the hundreds en masse to come together to talk about our challenges and our solutions. This was just the ones we just had. We've had a lot of base camp meetings, and they look like this. Who's been to a Business Speaks meeting? Okay, we gotta get you guys all on the list. But I think it was 600 unique people. And there's our EMAP. So Truckee Tomorrow right now is filling the need for economic development organization in Truckee. We do not have an economic development department in the town of Truckee. It might surprise you to know. We don't have an EDON in Truckee. And it's time to start celebrating our successes. 50/50 won named Brewery Group of the Year, the Great American Beer Festival. We're so honored that they're headquartered here in Truckee. They chose Truckee and they continue to expand in Truckee. And TRI actually did an IPO launch. It was chosen to do the IPO for Levi Strauss. So we want to promote our town brand to start up, relocate, and grow. We also have the Kitchen Collab, Clear Capital. Here are your resources that I mentioned in the deck, and contact information. And how are we doing with time? Good? 3 minutes? Should we play the video? So this is a video we developed. It's a time-lapse produced by Grant Kay, and it really celebrates Truckee. You can turn it up.
Today's gonna look good with the frame around it. Like a dream come true, so glad we found it. Sunshine through the window pane. Hear music when you speak my name. There's a rhythm of a life here in the moment, so let's own it. It's gonna be a good day. It's gonna be a good night. It's gonna be a good day with you by my side. All we gotta do is wake up. All we gotta do is wake up now. That's a bottle we can shake up. Shake it up, pass it all around. It's gonna be a good day. It's gonna be a good night. It's gonna be a good day. It's gonna be a good night. So let's light this night like a Roman candle. And you look so perfect, I can't stand it anymore. I'll spin you around these stars. Close enough, I can feel your heart. There's a rhythm of a life here in the moment, so let's own it. It's gonna be a good day. It's gonna be a good night. It's gonna be a good day with you by my side. All we gotta do is wake up. All we gotta do is wake up now. Now's the bottle we can shake up. Shake it up, pass it all around. It's gonna be a good day. It's gonna be a good night. It's gonna be a good day. It's gonna be a good night. So shake it up, pass it all around. So shake it up, dance until we all fall down. So shake it up, pass it all around. Shake it up, laugh until we fall down. It's gonna be a good day. It's gonna be a good night. It's gonna be a good day with you by my side. All we gotta do is wake up. All we gotta do is wake up now. Now's the bottle we can shake up. Shake it up, pass it all around. It's gonna be a good day. It's gonna be a good night. It's gonna be a good day. It's gonna be
It's a really
gonna
great
be
video,
a
if you know.
good night.
This is a beautiful piece that Grant Kay created. I'm really proud of that, and it's available to share with potential investors or people who want to move to Truckee and join our community. And that's it.
I think you did. You had a question?
Yeah.
Oh.
I was wondering if any work has been done to look for correlations between different answers to different questions. Is it the same people that answer one person with a strong yes that answer something else in a particular way?
Yeah, good question. Not as of yet. Not as of yet.
who are online to also ask questions. We are monitoring it, and so far I haven't seen a question yet.
So I didn't understand. Were you asking me that question?
Okay, I'm not addressing everybody who's watching online. I just say, if you have a question, post it, and we're monitoring the chat.
It's not awkward at all for me to be up here, just.
Colleen did a really quick flash on slides with the resources. Could we see that slide again? I think it was the second to your last slide. It had lots of connections on it.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a quick question. One of the early things that we talked about was good broadband up here, which is something we don't have. It's very inconsistent. It's very difficult when you're trying to run things, and it's very non-competitive. What is the city looking at doing, or what is your understanding of what's going on to help improve that situation?
Rachel and Colleen and Ellen bop into this, but the Truckee Donner PUD is taking the broadband issue very, very seriously, and they have several projects that they're working on as we speak, but there are lots of issues involved. It's really a lot more complicated than we might think, but totally agree with you. Rachel or Ellen or Colleen, any other updates on broadband? No, I mean, it's the singular voice, broadband. We have to have it.
Because I know TPUD does have fiber laid,
Yes.
but there's a little problem with the sole person, although that lawsuit got resolved.
Yeah.
So just wondering if the TPUD is going to think about re-stepping up and implementing that.
Well, I was at their last board meeting and spoke about that, and their elected board's very interested in moving forward. Michael Hawley, general manager, said they're going to move as quickly as they can. There was an hour presentation. It was really interesting, but they hear loud and clear. They want to solve the problem as much as we do. I felt that.
It's not an online question, my own question. So Reno has been mentioned as a potential threat with the masses falling in and the competition. From a Tahoe Mont perspective, actually, Reno also has been a big benefit to us. I would say probably half of the speakers over the years have actually been from Reno. It made it possible for people to also still stick around here, because even if the job hasn't worked out here, then maybe they found one in Reno. There is also an additional set of educational opportunities for people who don't find that here. So any comment on that? Is there a way of kind of putting a positive spin on that?
Well, I think Colleen's big gorilla was the shock factor of 50,000 jobs, but I think I can speak for Truckee tomorrow. We embrace Reno. We embrace its partnership. We're excited to do more. There's so much opportunity to do together. We actually have had meetings with EDON, They're very, very collaborative, and we're, I mean, the sky's the limit over the next, 4 to 5 years.
Yeah, I would say we actually, on Truckee.com, in our backyard is how we position Reno. So the value is, Art Town, Nevada Museum of Art, all of the events down there, and frankly, where are all those people who live here working? It's a vice versa. We just had a nice lunch with Valerie Cotta, who's was head of workforce development with EDON, an immensely helpful conversation, and we had a breakfast with some of the executives there. So, couldn't agree more that Reno in our backyard is an amenity and an asset. As much as it will cause us challenges when that population blows up.
Another unique thing we've learned is Colleen and I had breakfast with a large angel investor who runs a large angel investor group in Reno. And they are frustrated that they don't have as many entrepreneurs. And their perception is, we need to figure out, when you guys decide you're ready for angel investors, let us know. Whether it's an incubator, accelerator, whatever you decide. And this gentleman was fantastic, but there's a perception from their side that we have all the entrepreneurs. So there's some really nice marrying that I think can occur if we leverage that.
All right, does anyone have any last questions? Because we're about to wrap up. And Colleen and Pam, you can just let us know if you're able to stay a couple minutes if anyone has anything last minute. But I just want to say an enormous thank you to both of you for coming and presenting, and just also all the work that you've done to get us to this point. And I have to say I'm a little jealous because I went to Mountain Ventures 2 years ago, and I didn't get to go this year, so I'm living vicariously.
It'll be in Mammoth next year.
And that's a lot more convenient, although I love Telluride, it's a little easier to get to Mammoth. So yeah, thank you, and thank you all for coming, and we'll see you here next month. But first, we'll see you at Startup Weekend. I hope everyone will commit to coming at least either Friday or Friday and Sunday, if not for the whole weekend. All right, thank you. Pass your pens down, please.